this is a first. This is a joint escapade, a joint episode for both Steeler Fury. It's a joint exercise for both the Pittsburgh Steelers show on your SteelerFury.com podcast. Also, it's an episode of
Old School, New School. What is he? No.
That's it. Yeah, old school, new school football. Exactly. He's Jude Allume. I'm Wil Masisak, also known as Accidental Zen on Twitter. If you're on Steeler Fury, you know me as Bradshaw to Ben. Jude has no identity crisis like I do. He's just Jude Allume, except for he's the, with two E's, Thee, Mr. Allume on social. Jude, we haven't talked since the Super Bowl, man.
We haven't, yeah. There's been a lot of free agency news that we haven't.
Anything happened? Or were there any trades, any free agency?
Trades, retirements, and unretirements. But we've said, to hell with all that. You guys will figure it out without us, right?
Yeah. If you have like one comment about, just talk about the Deshaun Watson move or Russell Wilson, just the quarterbacks.
It's been a lot of craziness going on. I mean, I think the one, it might be the most recent that, I can't wrap my head around was the Tom Brady retirement really being a ploy for him to go be an executive in Miami. And then the employer situation happened, so he couldn't go there and then take that position. And then he was going to unretire to play for them. But then he just said, you know what, too much going on, too many cameras there. I'll just unretire and play for Tampa. I love the whole crazy, conspiracy theorists of it all. I don't know how much truth is to it, but it's definitely something that'll, pique your interest. But aside from that,
do you think the price was that Bruce Arians had to go? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I don't know how much of a real feud there was between Arians and Brady. But as I've learned in my years, whenever you hear something repeatedly, like I've heard, Arians and Brady having some static in their relationship, there's some truth to it. There's got to be some truth to it, the way that it keeps popping up. But just in general, the entire QB carousel going on, Matt Ryan,
Russell Wilson to Denver.
Russell Wilson. I'm trying to think about Mariota. I don't know why I was blanking on him for a second. But just all these moves going on right now, it's crazy. Balance of powers is crazy. I was saying for the longest, trade Matt Ryan, give that man a chance to win a Super Bowl, and I think he has a great chance now with Denver. I think they're definitely a team. A lot of people have given them a couple more wins, but I think they're going to be like maybe way better than people expect. Mm-hmm. Russell Wilson too. I mean, just a bunch of these guys are going to be on teams now where they have a real chance to compete for championships. And, just kind of like after these guys have been in the places that they've been in for how many seasons, and we're just so used to seeing them in their respective uniforms. It's unbelievable. Yeah,
most definitely. I feel, the Deshaun Watson thing, Cleveland, it's just so weird. Like, it still feels like there's a bunch of stuff hanging over this whole case. The Browns, even just inside their management team and the coaching staff, they had mixed, like some of them were really against this move and have publicly said so. And then the whole thing with the league saying basically that it's going to be going on for a while and we probably won't impose discipline if there is any until 2023. So it feels like the Browns are going to get a free look at Deshaun Watson, pre-suspension, and then stuff's going to come down. It's like, what a weird thing. But, in theory, Deshaun Watson's a pretty good quarterback. And in theory, that's a pretty good team.
I don't think in theory he's a pretty good quarterback. I think realistically.
I think he's here's what I'll say about Deshaun Watson. I still need him to kind of show it to me to make a playoff run. And, he had a top 5 defense when he was a younger player. And didn't get out of his own way, really. He lost a game to a poor defense because his play was not so good. But that's early career Deshaun Watson. So I believe he's better now. But we haven't even seen him play for, going on 2 years.
Yeah.
So at one point, yes, I think he was an outstanding quarterback. And yes, I think if it weren't for his legal issues, we'd still be talking about him. This would be an unbelievable move for Cleveland to bring him in. So, yeah, he's still got to show it to me a little bit, but do I believe in him more than than 25 other quarterbacks in the league, or 20 or 28 other quarterbacks in the league? Absolutely. Maybe even 29 other quarterbacks in the league. I don't know I'm not sure. Ask me in October where he stacks up.
Yeah.
But right now, that's what I would say. Yeah, exactly.
I think, you take what you've seen, and during the regular season, I feel like he's definitely proven to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I mean, as proven by the size of the contracts the Houston Texans gave him. And again, the extension and more money that the Cleveland Browns gave him. And just, kind of the frenzy that was there when he said, I'll take these visits and possibly waive my no trade clause depending on the team. And all these teams were lining up to see him, to see if they can persuade him to come play for their team. I think that's telling of how good of a player he is. And, quarterback is just the position numero uno. It starts and ends with the quarterback of NFL teams now. So you can understand why so many teams were anxious to get a chance to get a crack at speaking to him and trying to get them into their team. And lucky for the Cleveland Browns, they put together the best package and convinced him. And now I love it because how I felt about Baker Mayfield, and he just was not the answer ever in my eyes. I love that he finally got them on a winning track.
Like, Baker Mayfield is actually the answer but the question is, what is the piece holding back the Cleveland Browns? I don't know.
And that was the answer, yeah. And now, I bet Odell and Jarvis wish that this happened much sooner.
Yeah.
And, because that receiving core would be great now with, a better quarterback being able to find them. But that's neither here nor there. He's got Amari Cooper to throw to now, so I'm big on Amari again. So, we'll see how it pans out.
One last thing on the off-season stuff before we move into the draft is that I found it interesting that it seems to be that the franchise tag and players being under contract when they're not happy is really evolved now to a situation where everybody just sees that they can force a trade. The Antonio Brown situation, I think, started this ball rolling, and now it's kind of like anyone who's remotely, willing to express their unhappiness that's a big time player. There's always a way to move them, and there's always a way to try to get value from them, I guess. Although if you're the teams trading away those guys, it's kind of like you're cutting your losses. You're like, this guy doesn't want to play for us, so let's get something for him. But boy, is it tough. You're Seattle to lose, a guy that's still in his prime. He's leaving. Same with Houston, although, it's complicated.
Right.
But anyway, so I think that's the latest thing. It's like, if you're not happy, you force a deal and you get out of town. And, unless you're Aaron Rodgers, you just force the deal so you can get what you want at home.
Aaron Rodgers, he's got to be like on a roller coaster of emotions where it's like, yeah, I'm going to force myself into this new mega contract, but they're going to take away my favorite player and probably the only receiver I feel like I have that sort of rapport with, where I can just throw him the ball, even if he looks covered, and trust that he'll make a play. Like, yeah, I got my money. Man, who am I about to be throwing to this season? It's a tough.
Yeah, that's for both of them. And Devontae Adams is leaving that too, So I don't know. I'm not sure about the wisdom of that move for either player or the team. I feel like they should have. The world doesn't work for Aaron Rodgers, both of them. I feel like the world does not work like this in the NFL. But it would have been great if the two of them had gone to management and said, "Here's what we want, and how can we make this work so that we can end up with, what would it take for us to both end up here and still get paid? And if you can figure out a way to do it, we want to do it." But, not happening.
I mean, there's a level of selflessness that comes in that, where it's like, okay, one of you or possibly even both of you, you're going to have to take significantly less money than you can probably get elsewhere, especially if you're hoping that we can build out a team to make this run for a Super Bowl. I don't know if the conversation even took place. I don't know if it did, that one of them was like, no, I'm not less than what I'm worth. But just like you said, like, what you would like to happen in the NFL is not always what's most likely to happen.
What's going to happen? Yeah,
Players know that you've got to cash in when you can, man.
My last word is Adams needed to get paid. He hasn't really had a payday, so I buy that. But Aaron Rodgers, man, he wants to win a ring, right? He's the guy that needed.
He's in that stage of his career where it's like, all right, rings are more important than money right now. So
not if you're Aaron Rodgers, apparently. Anyway,
right.
Listen,
but I mean, you're looking at all these other guys getting paid. Like, yes, you've been at the top for a while, but the top has been like 20-something million, 30-something million for your prime. Yeah. Now you're looking at these guys getting close to 50 million a season. You're like, I want to taste a little bit. Get a little taste.
Well, on that note, Jude, we got a big show. We're going to try to get our live mock like we did last year, except for this time, we even decided we needed some help because last time, as you recall, it was like, oh my God, we're still going.
Craziness going on. Yeah.
So we invited who is a person who's quickly become my new favorite person who's interested in the draft. I hate him though because he is significantly younger than I am. He has a lot more hair than either one of us have. And he's also playing D1 football right now at Southeastern Louisiana. His name is Korey Karbowsky. He's with us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Look at the long locks.
You're enjoying Florida, I see.
Yes. Spring break.
Well, yeah, so we have even more reasons to be sort of envious. Korey, what is in the top of your screen, though? Something interesting.
A little hole.
Yeah, rains a lot.
Just hope it doesn't rain during the filming.
Yeah.
What we're doing. Okay. So anyway, Korey, you know what we're about to do? We're going to go through the actual draft order, and then we're going to each of us, rotate teams and try to make the pick we think is the pick they should make. Let's make that clear. This is not a mock where we were like, this is who they're going to pick. But more like what we would do if we were them. And I don't know, let the games begin. I think in the predetermined order, Jude, you're going to go first, which is a weird scene with Jacksonville because they need everything but quarterback basically, but they also, it's the first pick in the draft. You think that normally that would be like a quarterback scene. What do you see them doing with the first pick in the draft? This is the round 1, pick 1 of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So it could go a number of ways, but I think for me, at least, it ultimately boils down to 2. So me, what I'm looking at is, obviously, what do these guys need? Who's the best player available? And hopefully, if you're lucky, those two criteria will, coexist with each other. And I think they need. You just drafted your rookie quarterback, your number 1 overall pick last year, and now you have Trevor Lawrence. You need to protect him, but you also need, because I also believe, it all starts in the trenches for football teams. So that's going to be offensive line, which I just mentioned, but as well as defensive line. And I think what you have here is you can go either way on it. So at this point, you're looking at, all right, who is going to give me the better prospect? Is it going to be an offensive lineman or defensive lineman? And I don't think any of the offensive linemen in this year's draft, there are a lot of good ones, but I don't think there are any, generational offensive linemen that you can say, hey, I'm going to plug him in day 1 and he's going to play for the next 10 years for my club. But I do think there are a lot of edge rushers in this year's draft that you can say, hey, we don't have to worry about him. He's going to make plays from day 1, and he's going to be a great pick for us. That being said, I'm going to go edge, as you could have probably deduced, as I was alluding to. And now it's just a matter of who. There's so many options there and so many drafts out there.
Dude, this is a crazy, not just good, a crazy elite edge class. I think we probably have 3 times as many elite edge guys as we normally have in a draft year.
Yeah. So obviously there are a couple names that multiple people are saying. Kayvon Thibodeau being one of them. Trayvon Walker being another out of Georgia. But I think if I am the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it's like I want people to start taking me seriously, so I'm going to go with the number 1 pick that maybe safer, maybe not as flashy as some of the other guys I just mentioned, but it's still going to be a guy that's going to make a lot of plays for me. He's going to have a low floor, maybe not as high a ceiling as others, but he'll be he'll be impactful much more sooner than these other guys. I think they're going to take Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan. This is a guy from day one. He's produced for Michigan. He was really good with them. For a lot of people, he's the consensus number one pick for a while there. He was as the number one pick before, the draft happened, not the draft, before the combine happened. And, people started looking a lot more at these other guys. But I think this is a really good talent for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think he's going to make them a happy team for a long time to come.
Sweet. Well, I agree with that pick. I like the idea a lot of edge for them. And it's a guy opposite Josh Allen. I feel like it's a little bit better fit to have a kind of a speed bendy guy against the other side of that. So I like that a lot. And I am up with the Detroit Lions. I'm going to say that the thing for Detroit is, they need everything. That's the thing for Detroit. They really need a quarterback long term, but this draft class, it's tough. I think
number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, for what's available in this draft class, it's rough. But on the other hand,
I've seen mocks with it, but I don't trust it. I don't think there's any of these guys that you're saying you pick a guy with number 2 pick. You're hoping that he can start sooner rather than later. I think the best quarterbacks in this year's draft, you're going to have to probably wait a couple season, at best 1 season, for them to play.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just. They could invest in a quarterback. If there was a developmental quarterback that was kind of like, man, you season this guy for a year or 2, he's going to be the toast of the league.
With the number 2.
Big upside. Okay, so maybe Malik Willis is a guy something like that. But I don't know. I think it's just too big a risk at number 2 for them. So I think maybe what am I thinking? I'm thinking just go with what feels like the best player on the board, which is maybe going to surprise it a little bit. I'm not sure how you're feeling about the draft these days, and we haven't really talked much about it ahead of time. But I'm going to take an offensive lineman for them. I feel like you can never go wrong at choosing an offensive lineman that is tops in the class and is a capable left tackle that could also play right tackle for you. And even if you have too many left tackles, usually those guys are more athletic and can do other roles for you if it works out. So I'm just going to go best player available. I'm going to take, because I think Detroit's a bad team. They just need more players. And the best tackle that I have on my board is Ikwonu. Ikwonu, yeah.
Ikwonu, yeah.
Yeah, I got it right. I feel like from North Carolina State, I feel like he is the guy who is the most combination of tools and upside, and is also the most ready to play. I feel like if you pick a player top 5, or for that matter top 10 in the NFL, you really should be picking a player that isn't just potential and isn't just highly skilled now, but it's somebody that's both has the potential and is capable of doing more and being. He's a guy that could end up being the best left tackle in the league. I feel like that's a decent choice for Detroit.
Yeah, he's a consensus top 10 pick. So at the very least, pretty much every other draft analyst feels like he's one of the better players. So you can't go wrong. Again, me, I like building up front. So I think that's a great pick for them, especially for a team like Detroit, where you literally just need help all over the board. Pick a guy that's going to help you immediately. Pick a guy that's going to be around for the long haul. Yeah,
I pretty much hate what all draft analysts have to say. So thanks for letting me know that it was what everybody else thought too. Hey, I'm just kidding. All right, Corey, your shot now to go. I'm sorry, I lost track of who's third. That would be the Houston Texans.
Houston Texans.
Another team that needs a quarterback, really.
They need everything.
They also need everything. Yeah.
So I really like how this board fell for the Texans, actually. There's guys like Trayvon Walker, Kayvon Thibodeau, Kyle Hamilton here, someone to consider. But I feel like with Walker and Thibodeau on the board, it has to be one of those. So they have a complete lack of pass rush. Walker's traits are very appealing, but I think I'm going to go with Kayvon Thibodeau simply because the production's there. He's not as athletically gifted, but Walker's production in college gives you a little bit of concern. I feel like to take him specifically over Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have most of the time I'm with everybody, most draft nicks who would say that the tape and the production is more important than their athletic testing and so on and so forth. But I feel like edge is a position where it scares me to death to not pick somebody who isn't just a good athlete, but isn't absolutely elite at one of the traits that they'll need to be a pass rusher. I'm actually, I like to have the production. If it's a tiebreaker for me, that definitely helps. But were you not scared at all about Thibodeau's testing because it was not particularly good?
No, I mean, his film, he explodes off the snap. He has those extremely long arms, and he uses them. He's one of those guys that when he gets in your chest, I mean, you just see offensive linemen getting walked back by him every game. He's been the guy. I'm not buying really the character concerns that he's had. I feel like that stemmed from a couple of weird interviews, but nothing. I mean, he was a cocky guy, which I don't think that's a crime. But it seems like there weren't any of those character concerns before that. So it doesn't really concern me as much as Walker's production concerns me.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. That brings us to Jude with the New York Jets, the Jets Jets. This is your team, Jude.
One of my teams. Yeah.
See, by the way, if it's only one of your teams, you don't have a team.
I root for all my New York teams, as pitiful as that sounds. So
you're a Buffalo Bills fan. They're the only New York team. Go ahead, Jude.
I like the last part you threw in there. Good for you. Good for you. All right. So you see, that's the thing about these mock drafts. You just never know what's going to happen. So it's like I'm looking at the picks that I was going to make, and I'm saying, oh, this player is who I'm going to take care of. And then the picks you guys make kind of makes me alters it a little bit, because I'm looking at Trayvon Walker here, and I didn't know that he would be here at this 4 spot for the Jets, because he does fill a position of needs. They need edge rushers. They need cornerbacks. They need receivers. I don't like any of the receivers enough for me to take the best one here, whichever one you may feel is the best one. I do like Sauce Gardner, Ahmad Gardner here out of Cincinnati, but Trayvon Walker's on the board. So now it's just a matter of, is he a better player than Gardner? Who's going to be better for me immediately? Which one is the best player available? I think there's a lot of what a lot of people think is that there's a lot of potential for growth for Trayvon Walker, which is crazy because he's already, incredible to watch on film. He already eats up blocks. He already makes a lot of plays. So it's like for him to get better and he gets more vicious and he gets faster and he gets stronger. And, it's like, wow, this guy's already a beast. Like, how much better can he get? But I don't know. There's just something about Gardner where it's like no one's making completions on him for an entire season. I don't care that he played at Cincinnati and maybe the level of the opponents may not be as good as an SEC or anything like that. For you to play an entire season and, just almost nobody completes a pass on you, I think there's definitely some real skill there. And a lot of people argue that cornerback might be the second best important position in all of football. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go with Sauce Gardner here. He'll go ahead and start right away for the Jets, help turn around their secondary. He'll fit in nicely with what the head coach wants to do over in New York. So I think that's a great pick for the Jets right there.
Wow. Yeah, that's I didn't expect you to go there, but
I really didn't know. It's like as I'm sitting there, I'm like convincing myself and unconvincing myself, because it was either going to be him or Trayvon Walker.
Yeah, when it put me in a weird position, because I kind of expected you to go Walker there, which would have simplified my job as the New York Giants GM, which is I'm about to be, because the Giants need an offensive tackle like it's nobody's business, right?
Yeah.
But they also need. It's funny. I looked at something that had the Giant. What are the Giants' needs in the draft? And it was like offensive tackle, tight end, and defense. like everything.
All of it.
The entire defense. So that's interesting. So that gets into my mind now. I thought for sure I was going to pick a tackle here, but since you left a guy I really like on the board. I strongly got to think about that. The Giants have more picks in the first round, do they not?
They do.
Let me see. When is the next?
7.
Okay, so who do I think? Yeah, so here's an interesting study. It's like, who do I think is going to go? So this is pick 4. So they have 4 and 7.
Who's going to
5 and 7?
Sorry, 5 and 7.
Yep.
Who's going to still be around on my next pick?
Right, exactly. Because who is Carolina going to take? That's an interesting question, Doug. I got to read Corey's mind. All right, well, here's what I think. Despite what I just said about there being lots of elite pass rushers and there's also a lot of tackles. I know that.
I don't know that there's a lot of elite tackles.
But 2 picks from now, I'm going to still be able to get an elite tackle because I think there's 3 in this class. So I'm going to get an elite tackle.
Elite.
Yeah, there's 3. there's 3. I think that I'm going to probably still get a good edge guy that I really, really like, but he's not going to be Travon Walker in terms of what his style. Like, it's harder to find an edge guy who's like a sturdier, better against the run kind of guy, as opposed to a athletic run and chase defender against the run game who's a really good pass rusher. Like, we're going to have a player from Florida State in a minute here. I'm sure is going to get picked top 10 or so that would fit that bill nicely. But I'm going to go with Travon Walker here and not the tackle. So if Carolina picks a tackle, Jude, you'll be in the unenviable position of trying to decide who my third elite tackle is on my board. But I'm going to go with Travon Walker. They need everything on defense, but it starts with having a guy who's a badass. And I feel like Travon Walker, maybe the production is a little low because he played on a defense where everybody on the defense is like an all-pro. So that just reduces your opportunities to make plays. But I watched that Georgia defense, and here's what I saw. I saw the guys up front, and I'm talking about from the edges to the middle, the 2 guys that are, defensive tackles in this draft, Jordan Davis and Wyatt, but also the guy that's not even in this draft is an interior lineman, and then the edge guys that they had.
Jalen Carter.
Yeah, Jalen Carter is probably maybe even the best of the 3.
Played against them in high school.
Oh, there you go. And then with Travon Walker, basically there was so much strength up front that it made Nakobe Dean a star. It made other guys have opportunities for plays. So I believe in what Walker can do for a team like the Giants. It can really help them. That's my pick.
So I feel like that makes my pick extremely easy. If I had to guess what they're going to do in real life, I feel like they're probably going quarterback to try and Matt Rule's going to want to save his job because it's on thin ice with Darnold. But I feel like this is the easiest pick yet, and it's Evan Neal. Dude's a mountain of a human. He moves well. He gets a little vertical sometimes, but I mean, it's hard to pinpoint a weakness on him. He's a strong anchor, moves well in outside zones, climbing the backers. He can toll. He can really do it all. I feel like this is for a team that has 1 pick in the top 100. I feel like they get a top 3 player, and it's at number 6. So I feel like this is easy with Evan Neal.
Yeah, I think that's a good logic, and you can't go wrong. Had I picked Evan Neal a pick earlier, I'd feel good about that. Here's a question for you. What if I pick Evan Neal, who are you taking with your next pick?
What I believe is the 3rd elite tackle, which is Charles Cross, but it sounds like Jude doesn't agree, probably due to his lacking run tape, but
I don't know.
We'll see next pick.
Every tape I watched on Charles Cross, it just felt like guys were absorbed by him. So I'm all fired up defensive end, and I'm just going to go crash and go around this guy. And it's just like the moment they initiate contact with Charles Cross, it just ends. The play is over.
Yep.
Anyway, Jude, that's our pitch for Charles Cross. What are you thinking here for the Giants?
All right, we're back at the Giants here, and
this is pick number 7.
Pick 7, yes, for the Giants. And Corey just screwed me because I'm looking at the Panthers. I'm thinking you guys need a quarterback. Go ahead and take one of these quarterbacks early. Start that run. Evan Neal's going to fall to me. I'm loving it. I've got an elite my first pick was Kayvon Thibodeau. I've got an elite rusher. No, it wasn't Thibodeau. It was Trayvon Walker. So I've got an elite rusher, and now I'm going to get my elite offensive lineman. So just like what I want to do, I've got offensive line, I've got defensive line, but you've taken Neil here from me. There's still some edge guys, but do I want to go 2 defensive linemen here? No. I'm going to stick around with what I want, and I'll go ahead and go with Charles Cross because, again, I still need linemen. What else do I need? I need a tight end. There's not a tight end here that I'm going to take that high. Yeah. I need linebackers, but again, there's not a linebacker that I'm going to take that high. Maybe I could have went with a cornerback here, but for the pick number 7, I like Cross's. I like Charles Cross here more than anybody else. I think he's a guy that probably could have went top 5. Big guy, obviously moves well. He's going to go ahead and be a plug and play player for me. So I'm happy with him here at number 7, even though I was really excited for Evan Neal. I just like him a little bit more. So, settle for what's there. Best player available.
Nice. I have to give a shout. The next pick is the Atlanta Falcons. And I have to give a nice shout out to Warren Sharp of Sharp Football Analysis. What are the Atlanta Falcons' top positions of need? Thoughts and prayers. I think that pretty well sums it up. I actually really like picking for a team that needs everything. It's kind of like you just go to your.
It's a bigger blanket, bigger net.
Yeah. So I think with the team that needs everything, it's basically you only have 2 things to consider: who's the best player available, and is there a quarterback that fits with them, right? And I actually. So if I was talking best player available, just to give you an idea, like what my board looks like right now, Kyle Hamilton is the best player I have available right now. Stingley, I also really like a lot. And then there's Jordan Davis. Like, you've got some good players, right, on the BPA board.
Right.
But as you said before, you don't have a quarterback, you have nothing. I know that Malik Willis is from Atlanta, and I know that the Falcons absolutely love him. My take of what I hear going on in the real draft is if he's not gone by this point, he's going to the Falcons. They may even consider trading up for him. They love him that much. Going into the season, I thought Malik Willis was my number 1 quarterback prospect on my watch list, which had about 30 names on it. His 2021 season was not so good. It just showed what some of the warts are in the second-year player. And it's like this. Teams see your tape for a year, and then maybe you lose some receivers that you were helping you, and your offensive line is not as good. So it's like then the quarterback really has to step up and carry you. He wasn't really prepared to do that with what Liberty had to work with this year. But the upside is there. I would never draft a quarterback, especially not in the top 10 of the NFL draft, who I don't think has the upside to be at least borderline elite. My upside for Willis, if it works out for him, is I think he's like a shorter, sort of sturdier version of either Randall Cunningham or Michael Vick. That's the style player you're talking about. If it works for him, I don't know that he'll ever be able to improve his middle of the field reading and throws, but if that comes together, I think he has a chance to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. I personally don't expect that to happen easily, but Atlanta's got time. They're not going to be a contender right now. I think it's a good situation for him to land. I'm taking Malik Willis.
Which that will bring me to if it was me picking for the Falcons, I might have gone a receiver because that is bar none the worst. I mean, it's far worse than the Lions receiving room.
Yeah. But by the way, just so you know, so what I thought was I know there's some elite receivers at the top here and they're probably going to go quickly, but I feel like, there's receivers every year, first of all. And secondly, there's going to be guys that they can add that will upgrade them. It doesn't take much to upgrade their receiving corps. So go ahead.
So all 3 of the tackles and the quarterback that I was targeting for the Seahawks are all off the board. So Kyle Hamilton's the best player, but I'm not sure where he fits in with Adams and Quandre Diggs back there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Jermaine Johnson to try and bolster their extremely limited pass rushing group of pass rushers is probably the word. He came onto the scene really this year. He rotated in at Georgia, but he's a great athlete. He doesn't really have a weakness. He plays to run outstanding. He might have the most expansive set of moves out of all the edges in this class. So I feel like they go the best player available within reason, because Kyle Hamilton, I believe, is better than him.
Yeah, but that's a hard pick to knock. Here's what I'd say about that. I agree with you that Jermaine Johnson has a vast array of moves. It's pretty incredible, actually, how much he's worked on that part of his craft. But he could just do the spin move and win 99% of the time. Like at the Senior Bowl, if you saw the one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl, that the practices, he was like, the moment that he started his spin move, he was already in the backfield around the guy. I've never seen anybody. I mean, maybe what's the guy, Jude, for the Colts?
Robert Mathis?
It was the other guy.
Dwight Freeney.
Yeah, Dwight Freeney had the best spin move I've ever seen. But this is right there with it. And here's the thing. Dwight Freeney was a little bit stockier, built closer to the ground, so spin move sort of maybe easier for him to execute at a high level. Jermaine Johnson's like a lanky guy. I've never seen anybody with that build who was as good with the spin move. So I'm impressed. And I considered taking him over Travon Walker. That was, just for the record, they're pretty close to me, just different style guys. But I like that pick. The New York Jets at number 10, Jude. Jets Jets. It's your second Jets pick after adding Sauce Gardner. What are you going to do now?
Yes. Corey's sniping picks right ahead of me every time. We went cornerback, and I'm looking at Jermaine Johnson here.
By the way, before you continue, my role in this is like the Seattle Seahawks. Where they pick some guy, and you're like, who? Like what? Why did they pick that guy? I don't understand. So go ahead.
Right. So that would have worked out perfectly for me because we would love to continue building on that defensive line. We just picked our top tier cornerback. We're going to make it very impossible for people to complete passes. We're going to make it so that you have to get the ball out of your hands quickly. I could. You could tell I'm not going to do it because I'm like trying to convince myself of it right here, right now. But I could go for a Jordan Davis out of Georgia, another big guy on a very solid defense for the Bulldogs. But another position of need is going to be receiver for me. I do have a young quarterback, and I don't have a stud wide receiver in-house yet. I think I'm going to go with Drake London, a nice big receiver who's going to make those catches for me because he has a huge catch radius, had a hell of a season out in USC. We're not worried about his 40 time because we're not looking for, speed strictly out of him, but there's plenty of speed there. It's not like he's slow or anything like that. He's coming off a hamstring injury, so he couldn't even time him at his pro day. But again, we're not worried about that. We just want somebody who's going to be able to go over the middle, make those contested catches, and he's able to do that. I think he's probably the best receiver in this class here, though arguments could be made. I may have went with Olave out of Ohio State, but I think I'm very happy here with Drake London. I think I'm going to pair him with the other receivers we have right now, and maybe he has the possibility to one day be the lead dog in the house and be like an elite receiver in this league, just off the combination of his size and ability to go up and get the ball. So I'm really good with this pick right here, Drake London out of USC.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, the concerns with Drake London are that he's making a lot of contested catches in college. So does that mean like he can't get open? That's what people will say. I look at him differently. I think how he was used in college is different from the way that I think he'll be used in the NFL. I think with his size and speed, they're going to try to get him in some matchups against force the hand of players by playing him more in the slot and trying to get him against players that are not prepared to run with him.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. So I just feel like he's a player that I think will be better in the pros than he was even in college, and he was pretty great, in college. So all the analytics and stuff like that all seem to favor him. So I like that a lot. That brings me to my pick at number 11 with the Washington Commanders. The first thing I want to do is draft the old name back, because I thought the football team was about the coolest football name that you could come up with. And their shirts where it was like property of Washington football team. I love it, man. The Commanders.
So lazy to me.
I don't know. The Commanders, though? Come on.
I'm with you on the Commanders. I don't like that one either. But
what does that mean exactly? Yeah, so they're in a little bit of an interesting spot here. They really need a receiver to pair with Terry McLaurin. That's a big issue for them. Mm-hmm. And it's just here's the problem. My top couple of guys on the board for receivers are guys that are not exactly like I feel like to pair with Terry McLaurin, you'd love to have a Drake London. To me, the fact that pick just went in front of us was a bit of a problem, because that was like the right kind of matchup. I like Treylon Burks, who's a similar kind of player, but I don't like him as much. And I have a couple of receivers ahead of him in the queue, right? So my question is, as badly as they need a receiver, and it's arguably their top need, do I want to pick somebody that I feel is just a good receiver and just not worry about how he pairs with Terry McLaurin and just throw two great receivers out there and see what happens? I kind of think I'm inclined to do that. But then I'm also thinking about, what about just adding the best player, since I can't get the receiver exactly that I want. Lot of the premium price is going to be paid for receivers in this draft who are fast guys and play bigger programs and whatever. So I think maybe I would get myself a bigger guy to match with Terry McLaurin, who's still a great player, later in the draft. I feel like there's just so many, it's going to depress the draft price of them. People won't be inclined to take them as early because there seems to be a lot of guys. So I'm going to go to the best player on the board. You're talking about Washington, a team that had at one point one of the best strong safeties I've ever seen in my entire life, in Sean. I was going to say Sean Davis. Sean Davis was not one of the best strong safeties I've ever seen in my life. Sean Taylor. And since the tragic loss of Sean Taylor, you never really have the guy like that. So I just look at this board and I think Kyle Hamilton should be gone 5 picks ago. So I'm going to take Kyle Hamilton, safety from Notre Dame, who I don't really care about his testing at all. He's a guy that my comment about him months ago was, if you watch his highlight package, it's like the best 3 other guys' highlight package that you've ever seen, all put together in one film. So he's just, a guy that had the propensity for making big plays and at 3 different levels on the field, and especially in that role where you're almost like a linebacker safety combination in the middle of the field with his size. So I love Kyle Hamilton. I'm taking him forward.
The whole time I'm like looking at the name there, and I'm like, is it just like we're amateurs at this, or are we all purposely letting him slide because of the numbers he posted between the combine and pro day and stuff like that?
No, man, I think it's not for me. I think it's just the positional value. Right. The tackles and edge and quarterbacks are going to go ahead of better players. That's just the way. Or not better players, but players who are great at their position. Because
I get that, but it was like a lot of people really had the opinion that this was probably the best player coming out of the draft. So for him to go down here, it's like a great steal for you, Washington, at 11.
I feel like
the best player in the draft that a lot of people said, going at 11. It doesn't get much better than that as the Commanders.
I picked for Jacksonville in a Twitter draft a few weeks ago, and I picked Kyle Hamilton as the first player. So I can make an argument for that myself, that he's my top player on the board. Him and Iguana like pretty close for me, but I think Kyle Hamilton is pretty great.
Nice.
It brings us to the Minnesota Vikings with Corey.
Yep. So
Corey, you don't make this 3 out of 3 now.
There's a chance. No, I don't think you're looking at this guy. So I'm going with Derek Stingley. I feel like that's a really
That
easy
is
pick
the
here.
guy.
Oh man. Oh man.
That's the guy. Come on, man. Jeez
So
Louise.
his freshman tape was some of the most spectacular corner tape I think there's been in the last 10, 15 years. I'm being honest, I like him over Gardner still. That freshman tape is spectacular. I think he's a better athlete. I know the numbers Gardner put up, but they both move fluid, don't get me wrong. Stingley looks like he's walking on air half the time on the field. Like, that's one of those guys who, a lot like Jalen Ramsey is a comparison I like to use, is when he's moving, when he's flipping his hips, it's just, he's gliding. And I don't think there's a corner that looks like him and moves like him other than Ramsey and another corner like old Patrick Peterson, or 8 years ago before he's 32 now or whatever he is. Like, those kind of guys who just glide moving across the field. So I feel like that's a pretty easy one. Vikings really need corners. I feel like Derek Stingley is an easy pick there.
Yeah, I like that pick. And I give a lot of credit to both Sauce Gardner and Stingley. Gardner for going to the combine and doing all the drills and basically, doing a mic drop with the combine, because he didn't have to do that to get picked where he's going to get picked. But I felt like he was like, watch me, as opposed to like worried about it. Like, some guys are just afraid. And it seems like, like you see an edge guy that doesn't want to run the 3-cone, like, or a quarterback doesn't want to throw at the combine, chances are they're worried about what they're going to show. Anyway, I thought that was great. And for Stingley, the thing is, coming off that injury, everybody had doubts. He could have easily said, I can't run, I can't work out, and you'll just have to trust me. But then he went out and did the workout and was amazing, So I feel like that was the only thing keeping him from being near the top of the ranks, if not the top cornerback in the draft, was this idea that maybe he's not the same player he was when he was a freshman. But I feel like he kind of put that to rest. And NFL bloodlines, there's a guy that very good chance that he goes before Sauce Gardner as a surprise. That would be like, somebody said to me, predict a surprise. I would be like, 3 quarterbacks going in the top 15 that you didn't expect, or like Stingley going that high. That wouldn't surprise me. Thibodeau falling would be another one, but that's just because half the teams in the NFL are so heavily into analytics that they won't take a guy like that, even though his production and perception is that he's really great. But yeah, this is one of them for sure. Is Stingley could go first. Jude, Houston Texans, the team that needs everything. They earlier got, just as a reminder, they got the aforementioned Kayvon Thibodeau, and here you are picking for them again.
See, they need everything, which is a good thing, because, again, cast that wide net where it's like I can't really go wrong with the player I pick. But I think we're all in agreement that Stingley was a great player, and I'm just watching him drop down. I'm sitting here with the 13th pick. I'm like, yes, this is going to be a great draft for me. But, I guess me and Corey got the same board going on over here. But cornerback, as I've already mentioned, is one of those, marquee positions on the football field. So I think I'm still going to stick in that corner realm here. He's not going to be as good as Stingley. I think Stingley might have been, for me, the 3rd best player in the draft. This guy, I think, is a top 10 player in the draft. I think he doesn't get as much publicity, but still a really good corner from Washington, Trent McDuffie.
Oh, you got me now.
Hey, listen, you had a couple picks, and it's about time that I got you, man. It's about time. He's a big cornerback. Played 702 snaps last season with only 16 receptions allowed. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. 16 catches in an entire season of playing starting corner. I mean, that's pretty great. Again, the NFL today, they like big corners that can move well. So, you have those contested catches. It's not like they're in no man's land. Has the ball skills, had 5 pass breakups. So he has an ability to get his hands on the ball, make it difficult for receivers to go up there and catch anything on him. And again, for Houston, that just needs everything. I think they found themselves a really good corner in Trent McDuffie here.
I find it hard to find fault with that, for sure. That brings me to the Baltimore Ravens, the number 14 pick. The Ravens need some offensive line help, but they've reached a dead point in this draft, I think, for offensive line players. Like, I think it's a little bit too early for some of the guards. It's too late to get one of the 3 elite tackles. They could pull a surprise here. I'm not going to do it right now, but they could pull a surprise here by picking, say, a young offensive tackle with a big upside like Tyler Smith from Tulsa. But I think it's more likely that they'll just kind of stick to the game plan. Their wide receiver situation is not great. It's hard to tell if it's just because their quarterback has certain things that he is good at doing on a football field as far as throwing, and other things that is not his strong suit. Great player, great at what he does, but does he make wide receivers look better than they are, or does it, or do they not look as good as they could be? I don't know the answer to that question, but I just feel like the more threats you can put on the field in the receiving game, the more opportunity there is. If nothing else, defense is going to sag and Lamar is going to take off and run. If Lamar is still playing there, by the way. I don't know if you guys heard, but there's a rumor that's been, I would call it a substantiated rumor. Lamar he doesn't have an agent. He's doing his own negotiation, and they're at a big impasse right now with the team. So he is a guy that the team is reportedly very unhappy with the way the contract negotiation has progressed, because Lamar is looking for guaranteed money. He saw the Deshaun Watson deal and was like, I want to be the best played cornerback in the league, and I want it all guaranteed ahead of time. And Baltimore's like, you have 250 rushing attempts a year. Like, I think this is a really bad idea. So provided Lamar Jackson is still there, let's assume, wide receiver is the thing. I have Jameson Williams as the next wide receiver, and I feel like, I don't know how long it's going to take him to come back, but I feel like he might, be able to play for you late in the year and jump into a team that is going to be in a division battle that might really be able to use that boost of him coming in. And I feel like that is a pick that's sort of Baltimore's type guy. They seem to like these sort of Alabama guys that are, just hard to cover, require attention. And I feel like that's what he offers in this situation. So I'm going to take the second wide receiver off the board for the Ravens. Corey, you got the Eagles, bro.
So McDuffie would have been a very, very nice pick there, but Jude got me on that one. So I think I'm going to go Jordan Davis here. Devontae White gives me some doubts between the two, but the age is the big factor for me. Jordan Davis, I mean, that dude's built like a refrigerator, and he moves like no one else that size has before. Like, that's unheard of. Like, in the world, in history, that's probably the best mover at that size ever. So he, one gap, two gap, if he can develop something remotely similar to Cam Hayward's long arm inside, he will be unstoppable in the inside. So I feel like D tackle is a need for the Eagles, and I feel like that's a really good landing spot for him.
Yeah, well, they have this problem with Cox that he's priced himself kind of out of his value in a way. Like, he's still a great player, but he's now getting paid like he's Aaron Donald. So so that's a pretty tough situation for them. As much as I love Cox, I think.
They cut and re-signed Cox. I think he took a little lesser money.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that he took less money, but yeah. So now you got Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox on the inside. Oh my God, nobody is going to move the football, running the football against them in the interior. That is for sure. So Jude, the New Orleans Saints, pick 16. Speaking of teams that need a quarterback,
there's a lot we could do here. A sneaky, maybe possibly could happen type of pick is a quarterback here, because we've seen it with their hesitancy to commit to Jameis Winston. They gave, what's the other guy again?
Taysom Hill.
Yeah,
Taysom Hill. They gave Taysom Hill a shot, and I guess it didn't go.
Yeah, his era is over, I hear. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, maybe we should just let you start playing tight end receiver hybrid a lot more. It seems like our offense works better in that way. So I don't like any of those. I don't like any of the quarterbacks high enough here, but that definitely is something that can happen. We can go O-line, we can go edge, we could go corner, we can go receiver. I think receiver might be more of a priority here, just because your top guy, Mike Thomas, right? He just hasn't been healthy the last 2 seasons, and he's commanding a lot of money to not play at this point. So don't be surprised if, maybe they say, hey, we're going to move on, cut all this money that we're giving you unless you're able to take a pay cut, And then just being away from the football field for 2 seasons, you might not be that same caliber player, especially with all those foot injuries that he's had to deal with. And then just on top of that, they don't really have a number 2 receiver. When Mike Williams was out, who was the guy that they turned to and they were like, you're the guy that's going to be the go-to guy for us? They didn't have that. So they kind of tended to spread the ball around. And we just didn't see that offense being as potent as we have in years past. As a result, I'm going to go receiver, and I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. This is a guy, runs great route. He's able to get separation on his routes. And you need that just to give the quarterback the ability to put the ball in a place with you open, So I think he's going to go there. He's going to be the number 2 guy at the very least, depending on what version of Mike Thomas we get. And if not, he'll be a great number 1 guy, another guy out of Ohio State. So they've got that connection going for them there. So I'm going to go ahead and say that with this pick, they're going to go with Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, so like I do, you have Wilson over Olave?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the question a little bit, Chris Olave's. Somebody said to me, look at that top 30 that everybody's got out there, top 25. Who has will be a bust, but like who has the most chance of not working out in the NFL? And I worry about a guy like Chris Olave who is probably in 7-on-7s and shells is the best player you've ever seen at receiver, but in games, the physicality part of it seems to be a little different for him. So when you play at Ohio State, you're wide open all the time, and you got a quarterback delivering you the ball where it's supposed to be, by yada yada. You go to the NFL, and suddenly, like, you got corners who are going to try to keep you down off the line of scrimmage, and every play is super contested, and so I feel like that's a red flag for him, and I think Garrett Wilson is a little bit better at that stuff. Olave is maybe better at tracking the deep ball, but that's about the only thing I can say. Anyway. Too much talking. Let's see. The Los Angeles Chargers. Los Angeles Chargers at pick 17. Yeah, good question. I mean, the Chargers, are a team that's like, they look like they have the parts. You watch them play, and you feel like they should be able to win more than they're winning, right? But because they have a great quarterback. They have weapons for him to throw to. They have, some really stud players on defense. So I don't know. I'd like maybe I do 2 approaches here. Do you do just the best player, or do you try to find a specific guy that can help kind of put them over the edge a little bit? I'm just looking at the board. What's up here? It's like basically the board looks like receiver and then interior lineman, so on and so forth. I'll tell you what I'm going to do for the Chargers. Let me just double check there. About the Chargers needing an interior lineman, guys. Any kind of a vibe for that?
Chargers definitely need linemen. You definitely want to protect Justin Herbert. That was one of the issues they had as a team. Oh, I see you talking, but you're like muted, Corey.
Oh yeah, my dad said something.
Oh, cool. My bad. I thought you were saying something. Oh, yeah.
No.
It's all good. Well, all right.
You've got to protect Justin Herbert. That was one of the issues with them as a team.
Right.
He was scrambling a lot of the time for his life behind that offensive line they have in LA. So you can't go wrong with, investing in Justin Herbert and making sure that he's going to be upright and healthy.
Yeah, and the thing is, the one area where they're pretty strong, where you could maybe, I wouldn't feel too bad about reaching for a player would be edge, but they have Khalil Mack and Bosa. I don't think they really need me to reach for an edge for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with a player. He's very strange. Here's a player that I was really interested in, and then I watched him and I learned some things about him, and I thought he's not big enough to play this position for many teams. But then he had such a strong, not just workout, but the perception about what his strength and the fact that he, for his workout, was well over 300 pounds. I sort of come back on the bandwagon a little bit and re-examined him some. And I'm going to go with Tyler Linderbaum, the center from that would be Iowa, the Iowa Hawkeyes. One time I was like, man, I think this guy needs to be with a team that likes to move rather than somebody that expects him to just stand still and keep guys away. But I don't know, the leverage, the wrestling background. I think it's a good fit for the Chargers too because of what they do on offense and getting the quarterback on the move. So it may be maybe a hair high for him, but I just feel like I'm not going to pick a receiver for this team. They're going to try to build from some of the line, build the lines up a little bit, and going to go with Linderbaum. I don't know. What do you guys think on Linderbaum? Are you, because he's a little bit controversial as a prospect?
I'm not sure about the Chargers because I feel like Corey Linsley's been pretty good, but I think it all depends on the scheme. Like if he goes to like a Ravens, then I'm not sure how well he'll do. But if he goes to a wide zone or like a specific system, that might ask him to pull a lot more than to necessarily be taking on those one-text one-on-one on the backside or even going back to big threes. I feel like he'll be better.
Yeah, and I sort of made an assumption that Lindsey could move to play the guard position. Mm-hmm. I think Linderbaum, one restriction with him is I do think he's a center only prospect, which I prefer to draft somebody that's like a center guard because you have options for how to get them into the speed of the game and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought about that. I looked at the roster and I was like, I know they got a guy there, but I feel like you're still making your team better on the interior with a player that probably eventually is going to be better than Corey Linsley. I think you make a good point though. I'm he's sniping you, Jude, and he's bringing up perfectly valid criticisms of my picks. So we're never inviting Corey. Pretty much it.
I can't be mad at it.
No,
I will say Linderbaum. A lot of people. It depends on who you ask about. A lot of people feel he's the best center in the nation. One thing you can definitely say for sure, he got better from his tape in 2020 to his tape in 2021. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come, and he's just going to continue getting better. And maybe he'll even be able to transition from a center to a guard. But if you're the Chargers, you want to put him in a position to succeed, I'd say put him at center where he's already got that down pat. Move one of your other guys to the guard position. You'll definitely have opportunities throughout the season to play around with it and see what works best for you. But the talent is there; it doesn't hurt you at all.
Let's put it this way: I know that every Chargers fan listening to the show is just like, "Oh my God, what were you? Why did you do that?" But I just look at that board. I mean, it would be a position for a trade down, honestly. Like that's what I really saw for the Chargers. I didn't really want to get into that for us right now. Right. But I just look at that board and I just think, it's not really. There doesn't really seem to be a sweet spot for them. I think it's like this is a draft where the top, 10 to 15 players are pretty obvious. The next group, really, you could argue from this point, from 15 to 50 are pretty similar value. So I don't know. Maybe you figure you get two of them if you trade down. I don't know. Anyway, the Eagles with Corey is back up.
So I'm a huge Jackson Hill fan. And it's very tempting to take him here, but I feel like Avonte Maddox has a slot locked down. Anthony Harris can roam up top, so I feel like I'm going to avoid that. And I think I'm going to go an outside cornerback, Kaiir Elam. I think that's how you pronounce it, Kaiir.
Kaiir, yeah.
Yes. He's amazing off press, which the Eagles do like with him, and I feel like they've like with him and Slay, pressing those guys, letting them bail in cover three, and trying to let that D-line they always have a good D-line. Let that D-line try and get there with those guys pressing and bailing. So this feels a little high for him, but it's a big need for them. They really only have Slay and Maddox. So I feel like it's not too much of a reach to justify the pick.
No, I'm down. I mean, it's like I feel like I said, you reach at this point, this next group of players, the next tier, it feels like goes on forever. So you just already, even by just naming Daxton Hill, you just opened the door to like, man, there's a bunch of players that people think of as like, late first round, early second round picks. There's probably 25 of those guys. You know what I mean? So who's next here? It's me.
It's me.
Oh, it's Jude. Sorry, I didn't mean to take it away from you.
With the Saints again. I really thought Philly would have taken a wide receiver here, and Chris Olave would be off the board, which makes it a little bit interesting, but I won't double dip because the Saints already took Garrett Wilson. Mm-hmm. But just the thought of having the 3 Ohio State wide receivers between Wilson, Mike Thomas, and then add Chris Olave as well, it's intriguing. We're not going to do that, though. We're going to go for another position of need. We need D linemen. We need some rushing help. I'm looking at a player here. For some, it might be a reach. For other people, it would be like you made the best pick in the draft in terms of value. And I'm going to go with George Karlaftis out of Karlaftis. Yes, versatile guy. He stays on the field. I love that. I love guys who don't come off the field. Played at least 49 snaps in pretty much every game except one last season. And according to Pro Football Prospect, he's the 10th best prospect in all of the draft. Here I am at pick number 19 taking him, so I've got to be happy about that. This is a guy that's going to stay on the field, and it's not just about staying on the field, but also making plays when you're on the field, and there's no shortage of that with him either. With pick number 19, New Orleans is going to take George Karlaftis.
Yeah, I'll buy that. All right, well, the Pittsburgh Steelers is the team I know well, of course. And here we are.
No surprise you're picking for him.
Simulcasting for the Steeler Fury podcast. But it's an embarrassment of riches, really, if you look at what the Steelers' needs are. Their, the hope and prayers is not that far away from where the Steelers are in a way. Like, they have a lot of good players, but they have a lot of holes still. They filled them with, what I would call decent patches in most cases. They did get a really good guard in James Daniels. But yeah, there's still some big holes. The situation with Stephon Tuitt and the defensive line is pretty fluid. We don't really know if he's going to come back or not. And there isn't somebody ready to step right in at defensive tackle. So right away, I'm looking at Devontae Wyatt. Cornerback, they don't really have a number 2, and they don't really have a slot guy. So Andrew Booth is the guy that would come into play. Their offensive line, although they added a good guard, I love Zion Johnston. Johnson, I could see putting him at any position on the line and it being an upgrade to what the Steelers put out there last year. But the biggest hole they probably have right now, maybe they fix this before the draft, but right now they don't have a strong safety. They don't really have a nickel back. They don't have a slot player that can cover people, that can play the run or blitz. Or drop into what they like to do with their slot players, both the slot safety and the slot corner, is to drop them in cover 3 behind any kind of blitzing or zone blitz kind of action. So I think Daxton Hill I think I'm running to the podium really for Daxton Hill. As much as I would like to pick, I expected Hill maybe to be gone and for me to want to go with Wyatt or Jordan Davis. If Jordan Davis is there, I think I take him. Wyatt, I'm thinking about it, but I'm taking Daxton Hill for the Steelers. Corey's the Steelers fan in the room, so what do you think?
I love that pick. It's probably my favorite non-quarterback pick that there is.
Yeah, and I think for the Steelers, it gives you some flexibility in the drafting the rest of this draft because he could be your slot guy. He could be your strong safety. So he, actually, honestly, that dude could play corner. So I think it's sort of like, as the draft falls to you later, you don't feel like you have to force yourself to pick only one kind of guy later to match with him. The Patriots, Corey, you got coming up here at pick number 21.
There's a lot of guys that I like here. Like you mentioned, Andrew Booth, that's a guy that fit well here. Devontae Wyatt, Chris Olave. It's really, I think what I'm going to do, though, is I think I'm going to go with Zion Johnson. They shipped off Shaq Mason. They love building in the trenches there. Zion Johnson, I feel like he could go in the top 10. I feel like he could go 9 or 8, and it wouldn't be a reach. That dude is a baller. So I feel like I think he's among the best prospects here. Probably top 1 or 2 for me here left. So I think I'm going Zion Johnson, and it fills in.
Yeah, like I said, he would have been top 3 players on the board for me as well. I mean, it's for what I was picking. Like, if you're into picking a quarterback or wide receiver, maybe it's different. But for my board, Jude, the Green Bay Packers at 22.
This certainly doesn't add up with the way I expected things to go. Mostly just because, Chris Olave, I thought would have been off the board here. So I was looking at other receivers for Green Bay here at this number 22 pick. I'm looking at Jahan Dotson. I'm looking at George Pickens out of Georgia, Treylon Burks. A lot of people seem to be in love with him all of a sudden, comparing him to Deebo Samuel out of San Francisco. All of these guys I'm looking at, but I've got Olave here at pick 22, and I'm thinking he's going top 15. So it's really hard for me to look away from that and not take him here. I'm Aaron Rodgers. First off, I'm Aaron Rodgers. I just lost my best pick for years now. My best receiver. For years now, I've been saying, hey, I need some receiver help. I need more weapons. You haven't given it to me. Now, Devontae Adams is gone. Obviously, I'm pissed off about it. And not even that, but we lose MVS. So he's my deep threat. I'm pissed off about it too. And now Chris Olave falls to us. I highly doubt this happens in real life. But Olave falling to me here. I'm Aaron Rodgers. If you guys don't make this pick, I'm going to go ahead and just retire, and I'm not playing football again. At the very least, you're going to trade me. Chris Olave is coming to Green Bay. He fills that deep threat need that they had when MVS left. And, Devontae Adams, he's not going to be Devontae Adams. We're not going to put that out there at all. That's not going to happen, at least not this season. He's not going to have that rapport with Aaron Rodgers at all at this point. But Aaron Rodgers is going to look to him and say, hey, you're my number 1 draft pick in the first round. I'm going to need you to step it up and become an impact player for me immediately. And I think having the ability to play with a player of Aaron Rodgers' caliber is definitely going to help him. And it just makes him a better player more immediately for them. He's a deep ball guy. He runs great routes. 13 out of 60-something catches went for touchdowns. I'm hoping he can replicate those kind of numbers and, just be an impact rookie for us. Chris Olave, welcome to Green Bay. Go ahead and get ready to hop into the stands, get that Lambeau leap going for you, baby.
Yeah, just don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself jumping in the stands, kid. So I'm up now with the Arizona Cardinals. Riddle me this. Do I have a quarterback?
Yeah.
I mean, that's another open question, right? As to whether that's happening or not.
I hope you figure that out before the draft.
That's the thing. Well, I feel like teams know more information about this kind of stuff than they're willing to share, especially in draft season. Like, nobody with the Cardinals, even if they're like, I'm totally fed up with this guy. I have a deal in place to move him, but I'm not going to tell anybody that I told the team I had a deal with that if they mention it before the draft, the deal is dead. So they might need to know that there's something going on because he seems to be genuinely unhappy about his situation there. So, man, I don't know. The Cardinals really need an edge rusher to that's a situation that's urgent for them. But there's a player on the board that I'm looking at, and I'm just thinking to myself, TJ Watt is 33 years old, going on 34. He'll be 34 next week, right? He just turned 33. Sorry. So, do I think TJ Watt is capable of playing at TJ Watt of old level for years to come?
No.
Not really convinced that that's the case. Devontae Wyatt, I think, is an absolutely fantastic player. He is overshadowed a little bit by the whole Jordan Davis saga. But Wyatt, in a way, is a more versatile player. I feel like he could play whatever style of defensive front you want to play. He can do it. If you have him in as a pass rusher in nickel, he's not going to disappoint with what he's able to do. And even though I don't even know if he was the best defensive lineman on his own team last year, I think he's pretty freaking good. And I feel like he seems like a fit for the Cardinals. So I like the idea of him being a a one-gapping 5-tech for them who kicks inside pass rushing and rotates with J.J. Watt to start his career and then eventually becomes the starter. So I'm without shame taking Devontae Wyatt at number 23. That brings us to Dallas Cowboys, Corey. How about them Cowboys?
I'll say right now, I don't buy what Leighton Vander Esch has put out the last year and a half for the Cowboys. So this might be controversial. I'm not sure. I've seen a lot of rankings that have the Utah backer that have
Devin
Lloyd over Nakobe Dean. But I think I'm going Nakobe Dean with this pick right here. I think he has, Steelers fans might cringe when they hear this, but he reminds me a lot of Devin Bush at Michigan, where they have that incredibly quick trigger where they see ball and they get ball. And I think that pairs really well with having another dynamic athlete with Micah Parsons. And I think it also, which is the bigger thing for me, which is why I'm not going O-line, you have another capable backer back there. It gives you more freedom to throw Parsons on the edge and bounce him out, just do more with them. I think it allows you to open up your defense a little more than, sticking him at edge rusher or something, or just making him play awful. So I think Nakobe Dean's the pick here.
Yeah, pretty good. Buffalo Bills, Jude, the best team in New York.
The best team in New York. I can't even argue that. I don't know what you want me to do with that. It's not great for TV, but yes, I agree. The best team in New York.
The city's coming back, man. There's only 8 empty storefronts for every 10. So it's double what they had 5 years ago in Buffalo. Sorry, Buffalo fans. It's true. Go ahead, Jude.
Let's see. We could go running back. We could go receiver, but I feel like those are positions where it would be nice to upgrade, but it's not necessarily something that you need. It's not gonna project your team much further than it already is right now, because you're already pretty good with the weapons that you have. So it would just be a luxury. What I think you do need, though, is another cornerback to go opposite Tre'Davious White. You haven't really had a starter there that you could rely on game in and game out. And then on top of that, Tre'Davious White is coming off an ACL injury from this past January. So who's to say he's going to be ready in time for the season, even though, ACLs aren't as crippling as they used to be. So I think the position definitely has to be corner, and I think is going to be Andrew Booth. He's a guy who made steady improvement in this season. Prior to that, there was some question about him because a lot of people would say that, he was a letdown, considering he was considered the number 2 cornerback in his recruiting class. And, that freshman season, he didn't really do much. But this past season definitely improved his game, definitely stayed on the field a lot more. And whenever he got his hands on the ball, he was electrifying with it, returning picks for touchdowns and just getting picks in general. So I think they see him as a guy that they'll be able to groom. At the very least, he'll be a starter in that slot position, in that slot nickel position for them. And, they find their number 2 corner finally in Buffalo.
Yeah, that seems like a fit for them. And I love their number 1 corner. So you put anybody out there on the other side who makes you think twice about going that way, then teams are going to struggle more. So I like that. This corner class, after the top 2 guys, I like I like another handful of guys, but I think great value at the corner position in this draft. Guys are going to get picked on day 3 who are capable of starting as a number 2. So I love the depth. What's up? I am up next with the Tennessee Titans at pick number 26. And here's the thing about Titans, mainly, if you discount their need for quarterback, which, at the moment, I don't know really what their long-term future is, but I know that they're capable of doing a certain thing well if they have the bodies in the trenches to do it. And they're shy, maybe a guard and a tackle. Trevor Penning's on the board here. I like Trevor Penning, especially as a right tackle for a team like the Titans. I think that could really possibly be a good fit, and I'm tempted to take him. But there's a guy named Kenyon Green who's on the and he's a guard with nastiness, like Penning's famous for. Penning's a little bit more, persona has been popular, But I think Kenyon Green is like the right personality for Tennessee as a guard and the right kind of offense for him to be in. You can also kick out to tackle if that's where you need to have him. But I'll also say this about him. I think that Texas A&M is one of the top 3 college programs for offensive line coaching, that the players who come out of Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and BYU in particular come out better equipped to start early in the NFL. And so I feel like he's coming from an offensive line factory, and he's a super talented guy that fits your system. No-brainer pick. Kenyon Green for Tennessee Titans. Tampa Bay Bucks with Corey.
What a snipe, because I don't think there's a better pick for the Bucks than Kenyon Green. I think what I'm going to do is what I was hoping you would do and kind of flip the script. I think I'm going to commit to going Trevor Penning here and anticipate bumping him into guard, because the Bucks have 2. I think they have one of them soft filled, but they have a legitimate gaping hole at least one of their guard spots with the departure of it was Marpet and Kappa, I believe. So I think the pick here has to be O-line. You got to protect Brady. He's 47 years old or whatever he is now. So I think you go Trevor Penning and you just bump him in the guard and really hope that he figures it out technique-wise.
Yeah, I dig it. It could go the other way. Could have picked Penning for the Titans, and you get Green for Tampa Bay. But I will say this: the Penning, I think it solves a lot of his problems for him to play guard for a power run team, because there's definitely some issues for him with guys going around him at the edge that he'd have to overcome by getting better technique wise. So I like that. I like the fit there for that. Either way, eventually could be a strong tackle, so it's a good upside. Green Bay Packers, Jude. Again, how did you get the Packers 3 times? This is terrible.
I don't know.
Do you want to switch? Do you want to switch with me? So I'll take the next pick with Kansas City, or do you want to stick with them?
I'll stick with it. I do have a lot of choices for Kansas City, but I'll stick with it with the Packers. What I will say, you didn't snipe me as much because it wasn't definitely who I was going to go to, but Trevor Penning was somebody I was looking at. So, I like that we're kind of in sync here with where we want to go. So I'm pretty sure you guys picked this guy already. Maybe I just didn't update my little sheet here. Zion Johnson. Yes, you definitely picked
Yeah, he's
Johnson.
gone.
He's gone. Okay. So I'm still looking at that. I'm going back to my base here. I'm in the trenches. O-line or D-line. I think I'm going to go, not so much a reach here, very talented guy out of San Diego State. I'm going with Cameron Thomas. Definitely fills the need since they lost one of the Smith brothers in this past offseason. I think that fills the need right there for the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to go ahead and stick with Cameron Thomas.
Great. I'm sorry, I'd like to look back. Did you get them a wide receiver before?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you got him Olave, right? Okay.
Yeah. Olave fell, took Olave. So now we're going to go with edge here.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
that might be a little higher than consensus, but I don't dislike it. The positional versatility where you can bump into even a 4, I think is something the Packers would really like.
I mean, I could have gone with Boye Mafe.
I was just going to say, I think those two are two more elite edge rushers. I have no problem. I would pick either of those guys in the top 10 and walk away, mic drop. I feel like Hutchinson in particular, and Walker and Johnson, Mafe, and Thomas are the guys that you want to get in this draft. So everybody needs a quarterback, but everybody needs a scary edge rusher like that. And I believe those guys are all really potential guys in the league. What am I left with? I'm left with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now we got 2 picks in a row here.
With the Chiefs, yeah.
Interesting to see what the perceived, how we perceive it differently. I hope we can work it out. That I get.
I know there's 2 positions, so if you don't pick one of them, I'm going to leave you in a hard spot.
You want to? What would you call it? Tell me what you think the 2 positions are.
Oh, it's receiver and edge. Easy.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Receiver and edge.
Yeah. So which guy? I'll tell you what. I already was on the record. I'll take Boye Mafe with this pick. I think that the receiver choice is a bit more whatever flavor you like, whatever you think is the complementary flavor to what they have. That's a much, much harder decision than an edge guy right now. I think Mafe is the last. I don't know. There's a couple of other edge guys in this draft I really, really like, but I think Mafe is the last one that I feel like he got better from September to October, from October to November, from the end of his regular season to the bowl game and his All-Star game. It was just like, light went on for him. And I just felt like you saw him in Senior Bowl and was like, okay, that guy is an ascendant player who's ready to go. So that's the easy pick for me. Now you got the hard one. Corey has.
I actually, when I was just thinking about it, I thought it was a little tougher than I thought it was going to be because I really like Treylon Burks. But I feel like he's actually a bit redundant with what Juju's going to bring for them.
Yep.
And I think it's actually a very easy pick now with Christian Watson because he's a big guy who allows you to stretch the field how Tyreek Hill did. And he's good in the jet game, which is what they used him in. So I feel like I was thinking about it for a second, but after examining the receiver room, I feel like Christian Watson's a pretty easy pick here.
I'm just irritated as a non-Chiefs fan that they were able to draft those two guys back to back in the late first round. Like, that's disgusting. I love them both. Yeah, I love the picks. Anyway, Jude, that brings you back around with your Cincinnati Bengals.
It's a tough one.
Yes. Coming in before offseason, the obvious answer would have been, offensive line. Because that guy back there, Joey B, cool Joey B, he was taking a beating. They were winning games despite it, but I don't think that's something that can last. You got to protect your quarterback. That's first and foremost. But they did a lot of work in this offseason, brought in a lot of new guys, and it should be substantially better. So now I'm not so set on picking another offensive lineman, especially since, the best of the best have already been taken at this point. So the next position of need, I feel, for Cincinnati is going to be that cornerback position. This is another one where I think a lot of guys have the best of the best guys have been taken already. But I'm looking at either Kyler Gordon from Washington, or I might go with Roger McCreary out of Auburn. I think I'll go with general consensus, which has Gordon ranked a little bit higher than McCreary, even though I like McCreary as far as like him going up against, better talent. I still like what Gordon's been able to do. I still like, his fluidity and movement. And I think I'm comfortable taking him here, filling a need, especially since we're probably going to get rid of Eli Apple.
I think he's back for 1 year, but
he's back for 1 year. Okay. But still, it doesn't hurt to make him a better player.
I don't think you have to worry about replacing Eli Apple being a problem. Yeah,
it's not like he's going to be like, I'm going to be an elite level cornerback now. So at the very least, I think it says, Eli, you have to play better now because we've already drafted your replacement. So go ahead and go with that.
Yeah, right on. I got the Detroit Lions number 32. We drafted a tackle in the first round just because it was like the value is way better for a tackle there than addressing some of the other things. But much like the Atlanta Falcons, they need wide receivers. They need targets. I have two choices here that could go either way. Jahan Dotson, I think, is a guy that, I feel maybe is even better than wide receivers that have gone already in this draft.
This route running is beautiful. I like
he's just a beautiful player in terms of, just adding him to your team. He's a gamer. He's tough. He can do a lot of stuff for you. He's very versatile. So no matter what you're putting him with, I think he's a player that could be really good for you. But I also feel like maybe he's a better choice for a team that's already got a pretty good offense and they're adding a guy that's going to be a difference maker for them. And Detroit needs guys, but I'm going to go for a player that I think has more unique body type and more and skill that it's going to be harder to find in the future. There's fewer of this guy's Planet Theory. There's more guys who are great route runners and tough little, receivers like Jahan Dotson. couldn't go wrong with that. But I think George Pickens is the player here. I think Pickens is, we forgot about him a little bit, much like the other guy, the quarterback Stingley, because he was injured and he was out for a while, and then he came back and played, to his credit, before he was really 100% again. But I think he's rounding back up into, his previous form, and I just feel like he's a guy that you could really build around your offense and your receiving core. Can take a lot of targets, can be a significant deep threat for you, has size to match up against anybody. Going to be a tough matchup for most defenses, so I'm taking George Pickens. That completes the first round. I was tempted there to take a quarterback because I thought, you get that fifth year business. So maybe if I'm Detroit and I don't like any of the quarterback options this year, I'm trading it to somebody who does. But given the way we were doing it, I feel like that's the best thing. So guys, we're sort of long on time. So the question is, do you want to buzz through some just quickies, or would you rather just talk about the best of the players that haven't been picked yet for a couple of minutes? Because maybe that's a better use of our time. Who didn't? Let me ask you this: who didn't get picked in the first round that should have gone in the first round for you guys?
Treylon Burks.
Yeah,
Treylon Burks. Yeah, definitely. I'd say Treylon Burks. I'll give another receiver just to be different. I'll say Jahan Dotson.
Yeah.
Again, runs great routes. Like, definitely is able to get separation on his routes. And it's not just about the feet, which his feet are elite, but the way he uses his upper body to kind of manipulate the cornerback in his routes as well. I just love how advanced he already is in that respect.
Yeah, but I just feel like who went in the first round that is
you could replace him with? I mean, I think some of the guys, maybe like an Olave, because a lot of people might say he's more just a deep ball guy and not so much a complete receiver. So I could see people moving him a little bit further down. But at the same time, an argument could be made for any of these guys, really.
Yeah. I'm just saying Dotson. I could see, to me, Olave is the guy that I personally would bump for both Burks and Dotson, but I can see how he wouldn't. I mean, it's just amazing because when you actually lay it out team to team with their needs and what they're looking for and whatever at the time, it's amazing to me, the guys that drop out that because I also I've heard a lot of people talk about Lewis Seen, the safety from Georgia, as a player that might go in the first round, or Desmond Ridder sneaking in late in the round, or Kenny Pickett, which his name didn't even come up. It's going to be
Ridder was interesting to me just because with all of the research I'm doing and all the different drafts I'm looking at, obviously a lot of things are different from draft to draft, but it was like 8 mocks in a row had Desmond Ridder going at number 20 to Pittsburgh. And I'm like, maybe this is a sign of times to come. I don't know. So yeah, I guess in this exercise, I just kind of expected it to remain the same.
Usually, whoever the consensus pick for the Steelers is like, they never pick that guy. But they have broken trend. They did Devin Bush, which Devin Bush is probably the only guy I can think of in the last 15 or 20 years that everybody had pegged to them and they picked him. Maybe Jarvis Jones was another one. And that's
Artie
actually
Burns.
Probably, yeah. Well, Burns, I don't know. I didn't see too many people with him. I think that was like there was another corner before.
William Jackson.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
But I feel like, in a way, the guys that they picked who were like everybody had attached to them, or maybe their 2 worst picks, 2 of the 3 worst first round picks that they've had in 30 years. So not a good look if they draft Desmond Ridder. Anyway.
Only one quarterback we had going off in Malik Willis. I definitely don't think that happens. I think maybe not in those early picks, but definitely from mid to late rounds. A quarterback needy team, maybe a Detroit who isn't completely sold on Jared Goff, maybe one of the other guys, they'll trade up and take one of those guys just so they're not there and they don't make it easy for another team to just snag them up because they're still hanging around.
Yeah, I think
our jobs aren't on the line for not drafting a quarterback. So
exactly. No, I mean, of course, that's the first disclaimer about doing it. Because if you're desperate to keep your job, you might take a risk that you wouldn't ordinarily take, on a blackjack table.
Right. It may not even be what you want to do, but it's something you got to do.
You're right. But you led me to something else just before that. I was going to say, that if you have a second round grade on a quarterback and you're thinking, I would take this guy with our second round pick. Then your thought about, what's going on with quarterbacks and contracts and holdouts and forced trades right now is I'm going to trade up to the first round. And at least I know I have that guy for 5 years. Even if I'm going to lose him after that, at least I got something. But taking a developmental quarterback that's going to take 2 or 3 years to get to play, and you only have him for 5, maybe if he works out, that's bad.
That's very tough. Yeah, in today's NFL, especially, it's play right away. There's no more sitting back and letting you develop like that. So that's tough.
I mean, we're like, what are we, like a year away from long snappers having holdouts and pretty close anyway. Jude, I'll give you a last word. I'll throw it to you.
Last word. Let's
always put you on the spot. Sorry.
I think definitely we'll see Kenny Pickett go in that top 15. Just from a stance of what he was doing in college, the records he's broken, ACC records, with all the great quarterbacks that came out there. And, he showed pretty well in his combine and pro day. So I think somebody's definitely going to move up in that top 15 and take him off the board.
Yeah, I'll say about quarterbacks, whoever misses out on Malik Willis that really had him high on their board might take a shot at a Matt Corral. It's like you're getting sort of like the discount version.
That's another popular name I saw.
But I also think the thing about Desmond Ridder, he's a better fit for a team that kind of has a dominant defense and just needs a quarterback to like kind of not make too many mistakes and to try to make some plays with his legs. I feel like if you found the right team, I'm not sure going to a team that's in total rebuild, he's the right pick. But I could see a team, much like maybe like the Patriots were last year, where they could add a guy and be contenders in their division. He seems like a safe pick, and he's also a bit younger than some of the other guys who are being touted around, which is not a bad thing when you got this. You think about their upside in 5 years. I know Corey loves younger guys, but that's because he's biased for the young. Final word for you, Corey.
Arnold Ebiketie was a guy that I thought might go to the Bengals at 31. I think the big one was Devin Lloyd. He seems pretty universally mocked around 1-2, and we only had one backer go, which I think we might only have 2, but Devin Lloyd was a big guy. So I think mostly everything else we were pretty. I think there were any egregious slides or anything.
Again,
I feel like that'll happen though.
Yeah.
Because it's just the Bills. I feel like
who might take it, but nobody's investing that kind of draft capital in the running back these days.
I do think the thing about running back in this draft is, unlike some years, there's a lot of running backs, but I don't know that there's more than a handful of guys who are really move the needle. You got guys that can play and be part of a rotation all throughout the draft and past the draft, but the top 2 or 3 guys, like there's not, they're a bit more special than the guys that come after that. So I could see a team picking one a little earlier than you might think. Because
you don't feel he's going to be there later. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
I really see that Texans pick early in the second being Breece Hall, maybe, or Kenneth Walker. But if I had to guess, that's where I think the first one goes.
There's definitely only those 2 guys that somebody might make a play for. Because after that, it's really, the generic stereotypical mindset for it that, running backs are a dime a dozen. But
speaking of positional groups where the scarcity might drive some guys up way beyond where they're expected right now, it's coverage linebackers with size, I think, is a thing that the NFL really looks to, like the Fred Warners of the world. There just aren't many guys capable of bringing that kind of size to your front seven as far as stopping the run, but who can also cover basically anybody. And for that reason, it would not be a total shocker for me if Trey Anderson from Montana State goes before even Nakobe Dean or Devin Lloyd. I feel like that, it's just sort of like he is a guy that really has about a year and a half of full-time defense. And there's definitely a weakness to his game and being able to, read the blocking schemes and figure out how to shed blocks and deal with that. But as far as running sideline to sideline and covering anybody that can throw at him at his size, he's 6'4", 250 or whatever. There aren't that many humans alive who can move like that. And I feel like that's a player that you might see sneak in early second or late first. And as you can see, Devin Lloyd didn't go yet. It's possible that he might be the second inside linebacker off the board. So that's my final word. But gentlemen, I'm sorry that we don't have more time. We could do all 7 rounds. We had like 3 days. I think we'd be golden. But anyway, Korey Karbowsky from the greater Orlando area, usually at home at ease in Hammond, Louisiana. He's playing a big part in the Steeler Fury Draft Extravaganza Week. I appreciate it very much, sir, you being with us. And Jude, fine job as always, representing the young. But you know what? I think you and Korey could do this show, and then you would be old school.
I was just gonna say he's coming from a spot, man.
Uh-huh. Yeah, see, then you'd know how the other half feels being the old guy all the time.
As long as I'm booting you, that's cool.
Right on. Well, Jude, come and play football sometime on Sundays, and Korey, anytime you're in the greater New York area, you have you got a place to. I don't know. We have a spare room, but you got to come soon. I might lose it anyway.
Kudos to Korey for being on spring break and taking the time to do this. I know I wasn't able to do so during spring break because of other
concerns. Yeah, you didn't have the dedication
and concerns. Yeah,
you didn't have the dedication to the draft and to your 15 minutes of practice per day that Korey has.
Yeah,
for sure. Anyway, gentlemen, great to see you. So, on behalf of Old School New School and on behalf of the SteelerFury.com podcast, he's Jude Allume. That's at the Allume with the Mr. Allume, TheEemr. ALLUME. Did I do it right? The Mr. Allume, right? On social. And Korey Karbowsky, that's KoreyKarbowsky on social. How'd I do?
I like how he's pretending when the names are like right there for
They're
you.
not. It's not. I wasn't looking. I'm doing it from memory. It's all here. And I am Wil Masisak, also known as
it's MASISAK.
Hey, pretty good, Jude, but that's not bad. Accidental Zen on Twitter and so on, and Bradshaw to Ben, as you know me here on the Steeler Fury Draft podcast, saying, hey, enjoy the draft, enjoy the rest of the draft week content. Hit the subscribe and like button for Old School, New School football. Hit it for the Pittsburgh Steelers show on SteelerFury.com, and we'll see you again the next time talking NFL football and Pittsburgh Steelers. Thanks, gentlemen.
There you go. These old guys.
But he's in. Yeah,
look at these old guys. Where are they?
Pretty much.